And lastly, I would like to quickly address the police officers of January 6th. Mr. Dunn, Mr. Fanone, Mr. Gonell, Mr. Hodges. I'm a member of the new select committee to actually examine what happened that day. And I can tell you, gentlemen, that the fault does not lie with Donald Trump. It lies with Yogananda Pittman and the U.S. Capitol leadership team. We know they had the intelligence, and there was going to be a high propensity for violence that day. Claim my time, yeah.
You will be in order. The time belongs to the gentleman from Texas. We've had some disruptions already. We don't need that. Let the gentleman may continue.
All right, so that was Michael Fanone coughing through a go blank yourself to Troy Nehls, the congressman who was trying to rewrite what happened that day. Joining us, former DOJ attorney who prosecuted several high-profile January 6 defendants, Michael Gordon. He was fired from the DOJ last June. Michael, what did you think of that attempt by Troy Nehls to say, we're going to find out what really happened?
It was both outrageous and not remotely surprising, Katie. So I was the lead prosecutor on the Ray Epps case. So I watched that hearing last week where Representative Nehls tried to blame all of the January 6th riot on Ray Epps. It's simply false. Every bit of what he claims is false. Ray Epps was a rioter, and just like many other rioters, he went there because President Trump asked him to. Defendant after defendant told prosecutors, told judges, told defense attorneys that the reason why they went to the riot was because President Trump asked them to come to D.C. They marched on the Capitol because President Trump told them to. And they fought police officers because that's what President Trump commanded them to do too.
So when you hear a congressman or many congressmen say that, no, they were just peaceful and that Donald Trump told them to be peaceful, what is your response? I mean, this is getting rewritten as we speak.
It bothers me, it upsets me, and I hope that the American people see through this. January 6th, the riot that day, was the most recorded crime in history, not just because there were surveillance cameras all over the Capitol, but also because the rioters themselves filmed their actions, posted them on social media, bragged about them, sent them around in text message chats. And the investigators and the prosecutors gathered terabytes of that video and showed those exhibits in court to judges and the public. And they're archived on sites like NPR for people to go and look at whenever they want. So the idea that January 6th was a peaceful protest is absurd. I prosecuted the man who destroyed Officer Gonell's shoulder, costing him his career. Officer Gonell, at any given moment during that encounter, could have reasonably pulled his gun to shoot and kill the man who was destroying his shoulder at that time, and he didn't. He exhibited incredible courage and restraint. January 6th could have been a massacre, and the only reason it wasn't is because of the bravery of the law enforcement officers. And it kills me that they are not recognized for that.
Just so we're clear, according to court documents, January 6 defendants were armed with firearms, stun guns, flagpoles, fire extinguishers, bike racks, batons, a metal whip, office furniture, pepper spray, bear spray, a tomahawk axe, a hatchet, a hockey stick, knuckle gloves, a baseball bat, a massive Trump billboard, Trump flags, a pitchfork, pieces of lumber, crutches, even an explosive device. Some smeared their feces along the walls of Congress, urinated on the floor during the rampage, called for Mike Pence to be hanged. They stole a police shield and crushed Officer Daniel Hodges, that very infamous video, against a door frame, beat him, ripped off his gas mask, and attempted to gouge out his eye. It's a lot. It's a lot, Mike.
It is. And Katie, that doesn't even include some of the most, outrageous violence. For example, there was a rioter who threw an explosive device into what's colloquially called the tunnel, the area that the president walks out to on Inauguration Day, where there were essentially a phalanx of officers engaged in an hours-long medieval battle. One of the rioters threw an explosive device into that crowd. Afterwards, multiple guns were discovered on the ground, in the floor of the Capitol. Not the floor, sorry, not Florida Capitol, on the floor outside. So the idea that the rioters weren't armed or were peaceful is just an outrageous lie.
And the idea that they weren't inspired by Trump, but inspired by something else?
No, I mean, that's not what they say themselves, right? Take the rioters' own words for it. You can look at what their posts were on social media in the days and weeks leading up to the riot, trying to encourage others to come because President Trump needs us, because he's asking us to be there. The number of times his infamous January 6th will be wild post was shared as a call to arms. Then on the day of, when Trump told the crowd to march to the Capitol and inspired them by telling them that he'd be right there with them, the defendants themselves told prosecutors and judges that they went because President Trump told them to. Many of them tried to use that as a defense to try to argue to the judge that they were somehow less culpable because they were just following an order from their commander-in-chief. That's how they saw their actions that day. So for President Trump to turn around and now claim that he had nothing to do with it, for representatives to focus on the one time he said peaceful in the midst of a long speech where he was encouraging violence, in the midst of, or after he then later spent hours deliberately not doing anything to disperse the rioters, that claim is outrageous. As a prosecutor, it's my job, as it was Jack Smith's job, to follow the law and the facts wherever they lead without fear or favor. And so during the hearing today, I was heartened to hear Jack Smith repeat that over and over again, because that's the mantra of every prosecutor in the Department of Justice. It was the mantra of his team, and it was the mantra of the team I worked on to prosecute the January 6 rioters.
Mike Gordon, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it.